humans, Tony and Allison from Blue Lion. We are going to give you an update today on the paid sick leave law that was passed on March 18th, both by the House, by the Senate, and by the President. Again, if you want to know how a bill is passed, look it up. Schoolhouse Rock sings a song for it. So today we're going to talk about what that means for employers, what it means for employees, how you're going to administer it to the best of the ability, and answer hopefully some of the questions that is sitting on people's minds.
Lots of questions. We are getting lots of questions from lots of people. Keep the questions coming in. We love helping everybody out. So we figured this is a great topic for us to jump on and make a video about. So what employers does it affect? Any employer with less than 500 employees. So 95% of the state of New Hampshire, probably 90% of the state of Massachusetts, most of America, I believe over 70%, and I am making these numbers up, of America is small business. Yeah. So make sure you're taking this into consideration because this is a lot of employers are going to be affected by this. What benefits do you have to provide? So any full-time employee is eligible now for 80 hours of leave. And any part-time employee, it is the average of the hours that they work over a 2-week period of time. This is one of the questions we keep on getting. I have a part-time employee. Are they eligible for these benefits? The answer is yes, they are. However, they're not paid out at 80 hours, and it's not the 80 hours extended over more than 2 weeks. So it's still 2 weeks' time, but it is the average of the hours in which they normally work, capped at that 80 hours. So if you have an employee that typically works over 40 hours because of the position they hold, they work 50, that's capped out at that 80 hours for the 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. So what employees are covered? So if you think to yourself, who do I have to pay, right, during this time frame? This is an all-inclusive list that talks about it. So if you are an employer that's subject to a federal, a state, or a local quarantine or isolation under COVID-19, everything we're talking about today is directly correlated to COVID-19. So I'm going to try my best not to say COVID-19 a million times.
We could actually play drinking games every time we say COVID-19.
Or squats.
Drinking games.
And both work. Both drink and squat at the same time. Build the glute and the gut at the same time. So if you have been advised as an employee, if your employee has been advised by their local doctor or the CDC or whoever they're communicating with to isolate because they maybe have symptoms, if they are self-quarantining because they are not sure and they're trying to make sure that their employees that they work with, their coworkers, are safe, if they are experiencing the symptoms and they're seeking medical treatment, so they say, hey, listen, I don't want to come to work, I need to go to the doctor and get tested, and then I need to wait for my test results. That's going to cover them into this time frame. If they're caring for an individual subject to an order in the quarantine, so if you're a loved one, if you have a child or a significant other or a parent or somebody, a dependent that you take care of and they've been quarantined, either self-quarantined, so you need to care for them, maybe they can't care for themselves, or a doctor has quarantined them and you need to take care of them. Or if they're experiencing any other substantially similar conditions, specific by the Secretary of Health and Human Services in consultation with the Secretary of Labor and Treasury. So some people think, what is that supposed to mean? Well, there's a lot of different things that are up in the air with this particular virus. So some people are quarantining themselves because they have headache, they might not have a fever, but they have a cough, they have the sniffles, they have a bunch of random different things, and they think to themselves, I don't want to put anybody at risk. So that's really the substantially similar conditions. If there's things that are happening to you that fall under the guidelines, but you can't maybe get tested yet and you want to take the precautions to keep yourself and your coworkers safe, then this is really where that kind of comes into play.
Excellent. So when does this one take effect? This is going to take effect on April 2nd. So it's 15 days after the legislation was signed into effect by Donald Trump on April 2nd, and it stays and remains in effect until December 31st, 2020. Another large question we're getting a lot of is when does this go till? So they are currently covering this until the end of the year of 2020. How do you calculate what you're going to be paying? So again, employees that are taking a leave due to COVID-19, related health concerns for themselves are going to be paid at their regular rate or minimum wage, whichever is higher, with a max of $511 per day or $5,110 over the course of the 2 weeks.
Pretty sure Common Core math came into play with figuring that number.
Yes, it did.
Yeah,
you're right.
511.
Yep. The thing to point out here is that it is regular rate or minimum wage. The reason that's important, if you're taking a tip credit on any of your staff, you are paying them at the minimum wage amount, not at the reduced amount that you normally would pay when they're seeking tips, because obviously they're not going to be gaining tips during this period of time, so you do want to elevate that to the minimum wage. And so that's people that are taking a leave because I'm sick, because I personally want to quarantine, because I'm sick, because I'm having conditions, things like that. Now, let's say someone else was sick and I'm caring for them, then that's actually going to be reduced to 2/3 the amount with a maximum of $200 per day, or again, quick core math, $2,000 over the course of that 2-week period. So if it's myself, it's 100% of my pay up to $511 a day. If I'm caring for somebody else, it is 2/3 of my pay up to $200 per day.
So how does your employer get reimbursed? So the great news is your employer, and you as an employer, if you're watching the video, which I hope you are, don't forget to subscribe. How do you get reimbursed? The government has put something into place to help offset the cost so that you are able to help your employees in this time of need, and they are then helping you in this time of need. So the manner in which that they're doing this is you're able to take a tax credit of 100% of what was paid, up to those maximums that we told you per person, for funds on your quarterly taxes when they're due and when the money is pulled. So Allison's going to go over a very clear example of what this means. So break out the paper and the pencil. You shouldn't need an eraser, and let's see what it looks like.
So if you have an eligible employee, if you're an eligible employer and you've paid out $5,000 over any amount of employees, so it could be one employee or several employees during this benefit, you're going to take that amount, and let's say when paying into my payroll taxes, I was going to be paying $8,000. That's going to be my portion as an employer, as well as the portion I've deducted from my employees, whatever that amount totals that I was supposed to pay. Let's say it's going to be $8,000. I take the $8,000 I was going to pay, I subtract the $5,000 I've paid out in paid sick leave under this regulation, and then I'm now only paying $3,000 into my next regular deposit date. So you're taking 100% reimbursement of the funds you're paying out up to those maxes. If you choose to pay more than those maxes, that's going to be on you. But as an employer, you get 100% reimbursement up to their maxes. Now, let's say I go to pay and I've paid out $5,000, but I'm only actually paying in for this quarter because we've been out of work and things have happened. That's fine as well. You can actually submit for an immediate credit on the $1,000. So you wouldn't pay anything in, and you would fill out additional paperwork to get that extra $1,000 back. You do not need to wait until the end of the year, whenever you would normally do your next regular deposit date.
This is something that's really important, and your payroll providers should know, and they probably do know, but always checking in with them to make sure that they're on the up and up with what's happening, or your accountant or your CPA or whoever's processing your quarterly taxes for you, just making sure they are handling everything for you. That's why we pay these professionals. They know what they're doing. They take the stress off of our plate of having to figure out that math, having to file all that paperwork. So we really are thankful for those professionals in this time, because they're going to be able to help you through the calculation process.
The other thing that's really important during this time is make sure you're making a new deduction code in your payroll. Don't be categorizing this as something else. Don't think that, oh, it's just one employee, I'll just put it in as ABC for this period and I'll remember it. Go ahead and have a separate category made. It's going to make your paperwork a lot cleaner. It's going to make your records very clean. And should you have to provide documentation, you're going to know exactly who had the benefits, what period of time, and how much you paid out on them. Again, your payroll carrier or your CPA or bookkeeper can help you with those type of things. So what happens to your staff if they're actually out on a temporary shutdown? So a lot of our clients, unfortunately, a lot of employers in our area and across the United States are having to shut down temporarily due to COVID-19. If you're currently on a shutdown, these benefits are not eligible. So the way that I think about this is I wouldn't be paying you on sick time if you were currently laid off. So if you're currently on a shutdown and your employees are seeking unemployment benefits because of a temporary shutdown, they're going to go with the unemployment benefits. Now, when you call back your staff, so we've now returned to work, we're working full-time, everybody's back to their regular schedules or something close to, and they're still not able to come back because they are, again, self-quarantining, being quarantined by a medical provider or caring for someone that's quarantined, then these benefits would then kick in at that time. So the 2-week period of time, these benefits start on April 2nd, but that doesn't mean it has to go into effect April 2nd for your staff. So if you're currently on a shutdown until mid-April, and then you return, but some employees are not able to return because of these. They would then be eligible at that time.
So is this retroactive? That's one of the questions that we've been getting with what's coming out, especially since it involves payment. And we have already seen, some of us are 3-4 weeks into this process. Can the people collect now? As the law currently stands, the answer is no. Currently, you cannot be retro paid because you had missed work previously in this time frame or in the next week or so before that April 2nd date comes into play. I know that's a big bummer for some people. I know we're thinking of those stay-at-home parents. We're thinking of the people that have been so diligently keeping their social distancing from one another and quarantining themselves at home. But unfortunately, it doesn't cover you currently. There are things that they're working out with stimulus packages, and hopefully they'll be able to come to something on that information to help offset for those particular employees and people who are affected currently while we're trying to catch up to what is a really unprecedented time frame for us.
And finally, the posting requirements. So like most legislation that passes when it does have to do with pay and employee wages, this is another one of those items that you are going to have to post in a conspicuous place on your premises. We recommend putting your rate wherever you put your labor law posters and all the other documents and regulations that you're required to post. The Department of Labor is going to be providing a model notice by March 25th, they say. We haven't seen it yet. When we do have it and when it is available, we will make sure to put it out on our social media so that you guys have access to that as well. But make sure you are posting this as a regulation. As always, here's our contact information. Now more than ever, we are here for our employers. We are still offering services to small employers at no cost when it is COVID-19 related. A lot of people are taking us up on that. The best way to get in touch with us, because of the volume that we're seeing, is by going to info@bluelion.com and just shooting us an email. Make sure you are liking and sharing our videos, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We thank you so much for keeping up with what's going on. We hope that we can continue to keep you informed. I want everyone to just be very patient with your employer when they're trying to figure this out. They're trying their very best to keep the company running, to keep their employees safe, to keep a job for everyone to come back to while dealing with the same stressors that you're dealing with at home with children and your parents and all the different kinds of family members and friends that you're coming in contact with. I just want everyone to try and be kind to one another and pay attention and just realize that everyone is feeling stressed and that we're hopeful that we can be here to help alleviate some of that stress with information, because the more you know, the less stressed out you are because there's less uncertainty. So thank you so much and continue to watch.